Hi there, my name is Dylan Garland, the director and writer of Afraid to Speak. In this video, we're going to run down a few of the deleted scenes that never made it into the final film. Let's begin. So scene 22 was originally meant to be our introduction to Ellie, played by Paige Devon. Nolan, played by Taylor Olson, just left his grandfather's after asking for a little bit of financial aid. And he's sort of going through some guilt and some anxiety, misplaced, about asking for help. He's driving down the road, he looks on the sidewalk, he sees somebody that he thinks he recognizes, and sure enough, it's his old childhood friend, Ellie. They lock eyes, they wave at each other, an impatient driver pushes Nolan along, he drives away. This scene was ultimately cut for a few reasons, the biggest one being story. Once we get into editing, we realize that this entire scenario was just unbelievably convenient for our characters. And the second part was just we really faced a challenge trying to film this. We didn't expect it to be as hard as it became. We couldn't quite nail the angles. We definitely couldn't get a shot from the car following Ellie as they sort of locked eyes. There's a couple of outtakes where we're pretty much matching speed with Paige as she's walking up the road, and it just looks absolutely ridiculous. It's just something that we couldn't nail, and again, just overly convenient for the plot. In the end, we had the introduction for Ellie on the waterfront, two friends bumping into one another in sort of a big but small city, much more believable. Great introduction. She sort of comes in when Nolan's really hitting a truly anxious moment, and way more believable than this highly convenient scenario. Taylor and Paige obviously did wonderfully, but in the end it was just way too convenient, and it didn't quite work out as we intended. So here's the scene. Originally in the film, we gave the character of Nolan a bit of a crutch to help with his anxiety and his depression, and this came in the form of cigarettes. Earlier in the film, we do see a little bit of this left over when Nolan's on the waterfront and he's feeling very anxious. He hauls out a smoke and lights it. But once Ellie is introduced, she grabs it, flicks it away, which is a bit of a hint on what her influence on his life has been and will be. This crutch was intended to pop up again in scene 39 when they're on the lakefront, and you would find out that the cigarettes have been destroyed because of Ellie's playful kick to Nolan into the water. But at the end of the day, it simply felt out of place and unnecessary. We had found other ways and better ways to showcase Nolan's anxiety and depression, and how in certain scenarios he had no way to combat that. So this is an extended version of scene 39. The first 3/4 of this are exactly how it plays out in the final film. It's just the last bit that shows you how it was originally intended to play out, with his cigarettes being ruined and all that. Enjoy.
Hey, I just have to take off for a little bit to deal with something. I'll be back later though, okay? It's not a big deal. It's nothing. I'll be back really soon.
Okay. I'll see you later.
Why don't I come over later and we can have supper?
So scene 41 is a prime example of writing that is way too on the nose. The basic rundown is that after the big dinner scene between Ellie, Nolan, and Sam, Ellie and Nolan are just watching a movie. Ellie leans down and puts her head on Nolan's shoulder. She tells him that he loves him and then asks him to stop shutting her out. And that was pretty much it. The thing with this is that all this information was already established up to this point, and this entire scene was just sort of repetitive and redundant to the overall story, and just information that we already had, within the film. But it was just really poor writing that I thought this scene was necessary at the time, and in the edit we realized just how redundant it was. So here it is.
I really love you, Nolan.
Yeah?
Yeah. Now stop shutting me out.
Scene 48 is the shortest out of our deleted scenes from the film. Basically, it's simply a transitional scene. It happens after Nolan and Sam have their big fight in the house. There's a blow up with Ellie, of course. And while Nolan is trying to get away from Sam, we simply see him leave the house, jump into his car, and drive away. That's it. One shot, one angle. That was it. And it was completely unneeded, completely unnecessary, and while we were editing the film, we realized that it was simply better for the flow of this very anxious moment to simply go from him exiting the house inside to already in the car driving somewhere. And we realized in the end that this scene was completely unnecessary for the story. So this moment in scene 52C, which ended up on the cutting room floor, was the one that I struggled the most with removing from the film. Basically, it showcases David, who plays Bill, the grandfather, Nolan's grandfather, as he is already downstairs and making his final exit out of the house. He takes one last look up to where his grandson is now in his room, and you can see a lot of pain on his face, a lot of heartbreak before he walks out. He feels helpless, he doesn't know what to do, but he's hurting for his grandson, who he loves dearly. The main reason it was cut is that we had originally intended the scene between Nolan and Bill to play vastly differently. Originally, Bill was going to follow Nolan into his room, and they were going to have this sort of fight within the room where Nolan was laying on the bed and Bill was at the doorway, and then they were going to have this conversation. So later on, we would have really showed the pain as he was exiting the house. However, we changed the layout of the scene. So now we had Bill on the staircase, Nolan by the door, and they were having a conversation. And we realized that it was much more powerful to end on the line with Nolan where he says, "Don't speak to me," simple as that, and then goes into his room. And then we get to see Bill have this moment on the staircase before he walks out of just true heartache and heartbreak. It is a great moment, but just with the flow of the story and the changing of the way that the scene was set up, it just didn't fit anymore. But this was one of the ones that, it lasted the longest in the edits because I love the scene so much. But at the end of the day, I really had to sit there and say, you know what? It's not needed, it's not necessary, and it's much more powerful the way it's edited now. But again, it's a great moment. So this is an extended version of that. You're going to see a little bit of the final scene, cut up a little differently than the way it looks in the final film, just to sort of fit this moment. But here it is, a moment with Bill, with his heart breaking on camera.
I've been supportive and understanding this entire time, but I will not have you speak to me like that. Do you understand?
Then don't speak to me. It's as simple as that.
Our final deleted scene here is scene 53, which is a scene that we only ever shot one half of, which was Paige's angle, who plays Ellie, for the scene. And if I remember correctly, the reason for that is because we either didn't have Bill cast when we were filming the scene, or there was a scheduling conflict that we couldn't have Bill on set that day. So we just had to get Paige's angle because of the incredibly time crunch and low budget nature of this film. Basically, this is a scene between Bill and Ellie. Ellie returns after the big blow up fight between her and Nolan, as well as Bill is outside after his fight with Nolan, and they sort of cross paths and have a discussion about the history of what Nolan is going through both of their eyes. Ellie is clearly distraught, where Bill is playing that grandfatherly role, where he's trying to give answers and trying to understand it and trying to do the best he can to alleviate that pain and worry that Ellie is very clearly going through. Before there was even a chance to film David's angle, who plays Bill, we realized that the scene was pretty unnecessary to the flow of what we had already shot, because by the time we were filming all Bill's scenes, we sort of had a really good understanding of how we were going to cut together the film, as well as how certain things had changed from our original intent from the script to the final film, or what would become the final film. So we decided that it wasn't necessary, and we just dropped the scene. So for this scene, there's only 2 shots, obviously because we don't have that other angle, and I have included subtitles in this that includes Bill's lines from script, because Paige had to act against me as Bill. And I will put it mildly, I belong behind the camera and not in front of the camera. So how Paige managed to get an incredible performance out of this, basically playing to a wooden board, is a testament to her acting ability. So here it is, scene 53, a scene between Ellie and Bill, where we only ever got Ellie's coverage.
Are you okay?
Oh yeah, I'm fine. Just want to say hi to Nolan.
Is he okay?
I don't know. He'll never tell me if anything's wrong until it's hurt me. If he said anything that seemed out of character, you know he didn't mean it.
I know. I just want to help him. Even when we were younger, he'd have moments. I thought those were gone.
Yeah, I noticed it too. When his grandmother died, I really saw it come out. He never talked to me about it. And probably when it happened, he never said anything. He just sort of took it as it was.
It hurt him so much. I can tell. Why doesn't he talk to anyone?
Can't answer that. I think he thinks that I'll judge him for it. Listen, don't worry. He'll snap out of it. I'm sure he won't want to be away from you for more than 5 minutes.
Okay.
So there you have it, the deleted scenes of Afraid to Speak. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this added a little bit more insight to how we created the film and the choices we made. A huge thank you to, of course, everybody involved. The actors for giving it their all in less than ideal circumstances, i.e. acting towards the director with the other character not there, and so much other stuff. There are reasons, of course, why these never made it into the final film, and I think the final film is the better version of what this could have been. But some of these scenes are very touching and emotional and great scenes, so I'm glad we get to share it in some way. So thank you for watching.